So today's leadership lesson will be rounded out by this three-part series, lesson 130 of A Course in Miracles. It is impossible to see two worlds. It is impossible to see two worlds. This past Sunday, I was invited to give a sermon at a Unity church near me. And the title of the talk was The Courage to See Differently, Sacred Leadership in a World of Fear. And at the core of that message to the leaders in the room, because everyone in the room is a leader. Leadership is a practice. It's not just about title and positioning. Everyone in that room, the message to them was that being a sacred leader requires awareness, willingness, and choice. And lesson 130, it is impossible to see two worlds, brings us back to the principle, the spiritual principle of choice. So I'm going to read a few paragraphs because I think this is very central to us understanding and rooting in the text of the Course. It says, perception is consistent. What you see reflects your thinking, and your thinking but reflects your choice of what you want to see. Your values are determiners of this. For what you value, you must want to see. Believing what you see is really there. No one can see a world his mind has not accorded value. Let that sit. No one can see or perceive a world that his mind has not already accorded value. And no one can fail to look upon what he believes he wants. And so this idea that what you are perceiving and seeing is there because you want it there, whether you're conscious of it or not. There's a part of you that wants to perceive it because the eyeballs first have to notice something in order to name it. And what we notice is driven by an unconscious desire of around what we value and what we believe. Have you ever noticed in your life how things you just don't care about, you don't even notice or pay attention to? They don't even cross your radar. You can be sitting at a brunch on Saturday or Sunday with your girlfriends talking about a show, for example, that you all love, laughing and giggling. And someone will have focused in on a part of the show that you don't even remember. And then there are parts of it that really stand out to you. And so you all are not necessarily even talking about the same reality in that instant, right? You're remembering aspects of the show that reach your consciousness. Maybe there was something going on in your personal life that made a particular part of that series or show catch your attention. Maybe you showed up to that show peaceful and in a state of receptivity. Maybe you showed up to that show angry. So whatever your eyes fell upon or looked upon were captured based on the consciousness with which you brought to that experience of that show. And so that's what this paragraph is saying. It's saying that perception is consistent. What you see reflects your thinking. What you perceive as being outside of you in your external world is actually grounded and rooted already by your internal world and what's going on inside of you. And so as a sacred leader, what you value becomes very important. Your awareness and consciousness of what you value, and your awareness and consciousness that other people may value things that are different from you become very important as a practice. And then the Course boldly goes on to proclaim, fear has made everything you think you see. Fear has made everything you think you see. All separation, all distinctions, and the multitude of differences you believe make up the world. They are not there. They are not there. Love's enemy has made them up, the ego. Yet love can have no enemy. And so they have no cause, no being, and no consequence. They can be valued, but they remain unreal. They can be sought, but they cannot truly be found. So let's just sit with that fear, our fears. The ego is fear, in the worldview, in the metaphysical worldview of the Course. It is an impersonal consciousness. It is an impersonal thought system that we have inherited from our upbringing, our cultural programming, unconscious, the schooling we learned, maybe even our faith traditions and our religious traditions. But it is telling us that when we look out in the world of duality, because we perceive everything as differentiated, as separate as humans, with our perception, we have made them up. We have given them names. They're not real. They don't exist in and of themselves as inherently real or truthful. This is why you can move from one country to another country, while we can all speak different languages around the world and both see the same object. Our eyeballs can see the same object, but we have a different name for it and we affix a different meaning to it. So our assumption as we move through the world, in our homes, in our communities, in our movements, in our workplaces, is that it's obvious what we're seeing. You clearly see what I'm seeing in this circumstance, whether that's a positive thing in that group dynamic or in that situation, or it's a negative thing. But what the Course is saying is like no, you're seeing distinctions and differentiations and differences. And you're seeing them there because you want them there, because you value them. And just because you value something or because you say it's so, it doesn't make it real. It is a projection of your mind. What you see is always being interpreted through the filter of your consciousness. This is why the law of perception is consistent. Your projections make your perceptions. And this is why we must remain humble. And we must practice the pause and reflect a moment to make sure, like, what with what eyes am I seeing? How am I looking at this thing? Am I jumping to conclusions just because I see it? Or will I take a breath, practice the pause, and be willing to do that so that I can make sure that I'm not being guided by fear rather than by love, and by a pure intention of wanting to connect and join rather than wanting to separate and distinguish. And the Course makes a bold claim that love has no enemy. So we may believe that there are fearful things out in the world, but they don't exist. They simply don't exist. So the next paragraph says, today we will not seek for them, these unreal illusions, nor waste this day in seeking not what can be found. It is impossible to see two worlds which have no overlap of any kind. Seek for one, the perception of love, and the other disappears, but one remains. This is the range of choice beyond which your decision cannot go. The real and the unreal are all there is to choose between, and nothing more than these. Today, we will attempt to make no compromise where none is possible. The world you see is proof you have already made a choice, as all-embracing as its opposite. Let's take that in. The real and the unreal are all there is to choose between, and nothing more than these. So we as humans love to assign value to things. People are either right or wrong, or things are either good or bad. But the Course says that doesn't matter. Things are just either real or unreal. Either they're rooted in the truth of love and abundance and the connection, the divine mind, the effortless, omnipotent, powerful flow of the universal love and energy of all that there is, or either they're unreal, they're projections of our mind, our interpretations, which means we're always making them up with a story. We're always bringing our lived experiences, our personality, our cultural programming, our educational programming, our religious programming to whatever it is our eyeballs are seeing. And because it's always changing, right? And depending on the mood and depending on who we believe ourselves to be and whose we believe ourselves to be, it's always going to be an illusion, a projection. And some people, the ego and our humanists, we take umbrage at this. Like, how dare you tell me what I see isn't right in front of me? And if you're really honest with yourself, it's why we can all be looking at the same circumstances in the world, in our homes, in our bodies, in our organizations, in our relationships, in our movements, in our politics, in our governments, and we can all have a different point of view. And around we go. And so the Course says, you just have to choose these worlds. There is no overlap. Either something is real or it's unreal. It's irreconcilable. It is uncompromising in its worldview, the Course, in its metaphysics. And it's saying, today we will attempt to make no compromise where none are possible. The Course teaches the truth is true and nothing else is true. The first part of that, the truth is true, we can stand firm in that. But if we also believe other things are true, right? Our interpretations are making that up, right? We believe in our stories and what we think we're seeing, then it negates the first proposition, which is that the truth is true, right? And so it's saying that the world you see is proof you have already made a choice. So by the time you are interpreting the thing in front of you, you've already made a choice of whether you're going to see through the eyes of love or whether you're going to see through the eyes of fear. And so this is why it's so important for sacred leaders to practice the pause. And so as I come around the bend of these three lessons, lesson 128, which said, the world fear maids hold nothing I really want, right? That was the core and the crux of A Course in Miracles, lesson 128. I see that fear has hijacked my perception. So in that lesson, I was having a moment and I had to pause and just acknowledge and name that I was in fear and contraction. And that I was beginning to tell stories about what my experience was. And in that moment, the peace I found was closing my eyelids and just saying, the world here has nothing that I want. And in that moment, it brought me peace. But in the very next lesson, lesson 129, I became willing to see differently. If you recall, lesson 129 was, beyond this world, there is a world I want. So I'm looking at this world that I'm perceiving, that I'm projecting, that I'm making up. And yet I know there's something more here. That lesson distinguished between sight and vision. What my eyeballs are seeing is not real. If I were to close my eyelids, I can activate my vision. And the Course teaches us is that you don't need your eyeballs to see. When you know that there's a higher truth, when your heart is aligned with divine mind, with love, with all there is, all the goodness and abundance in the world, and when you're willing to just be receptive to that, it creates an opening in you, an energetic opening in you that allows you to be in that. And so lesson 130 says, it's impossible to see two worlds. It's impossible to see two worlds. They're irreconcilable. Love and fear can't coexist. Our humanness, our intellect wants to believe that they can coexist. But when you are operating from an inner peace and an inner certainty and an inner knowing that all is well, that everything that is happening, that God is present. You may not understand it in that moment. You may not like it. You may want it. The ego may want it to be what it is. But when you have trust and faith and when you surrender, you can relax in knowing, like, I may not see what is happening right now. I may not understand it. I may not even like it. But I'm willing to know that there may be more here for me. And I'm making the choice for love. I cannot see fear's world and love at the same time. And so this is the core message, sacred leaders. This is the core message I need today as a sacred leader before I go into all of my work and my service. And that is this, that a sacred leader must choose the consciousness from which she sees. I must choose from which consciousness am I going to see this. Fear will show me separation, scarcity, disaster, attack, contraction, wrongness. Everything is wrong when I'm looking through the eyes and the consciousness of fear. But love will reveal truth, dignity, wisdom, repair, boundaries, and possibility. And so here is the practical transformation move for you today. These are the questions. So bring one leadership situation to mind. Bring one lesson to mind right now. Something that you're struggling with and you can feel the tension and the pull. And I want you to affirm and declare it's impossible to see two worlds. I choose to look at this situation, whatever it is, look at this leadership challenge in my home, in my relationships, in my life. I choose to see it from the eyes of love. And then I just ask, help me see this differently. And so I ask this question: what world am I seeing right now? Am I seeing fear's world or love world? And you can just be honest about that. If you're feeling the contraction in the soma in your body, you can just be honest. If you're upset, you're upset. Just say that, speak it, journal it, talk to a friend, right? Let it out, let it flow through you. But just acknowledge and be aware that you're seeing through the eyes of contraction. And that's okay. No judgment, no heat, no shade. It's okay. The second question you can ask yourself: what am I valuing that makes fear's world seem real? There's something underneath the situation that I'm experiencing, and I'm valuing something. There's a set of beliefs I'm holding, a set of assumptions I'm making. There's a sense of righteousness or wrongness, maybe even. And when we have a reaction to something, it's called contrast learning, and it lets us know what matters most and what matters first to us. So it helps us to know what our values are and what's being activated by that external trigger. The third practical question is: what would I choose if I trusted love more than fear? What would I choose if I trusted love more than fear? And then finally, what one action can I take from love and vision instead of fear and reaction? What's one action I can take from love, from the desire to join and connect with first myself, with my source, and then with my brothers and sisters out in the world? And so I leave you with this. Lesson 130. Ask us sacred leaders to stop trying to hold two realities. Don't accept that. Claim and affirm that it's impossible to see two worlds. If I want the world that love reveals, I must choose the vision, the consciousness that can see it first, and bring that to the perceived challenge. And this lesson in the Course ends with this prayer: it is impossible to see two worlds. Let me accept the strength God, the divine, offers me, and see no value in this world, so that I may find my freedom and my deliverance. Let me accept the strength God offers me and see no value in this world, so that I may find my freedom and deliverance. And so your liberation, your freedom from whatever this challenge is available to you right now, in this right now moment. And the only question becomes, are you willing to make a choice to see it through the eyes of love? May this offering support you today in your life and leadership. Peace and love.